Highway of Rage, the true story of Aileen Wuornos. In the late 1980s, Florida's highways stretched endlessly under the sun, miles of asphalt cutting through forests, swamps, and empty land. Truck stops glowed at night like islands in darkness. Travelers came and went without knowing each other's names. Deals were made quietly. Cash changed hands. Engines started, and cars disappeared into the black. It was the perfect place for someone who didn't want to be seen. And it was the perfect hunting ground. A life that began in chaos. Aileen Carol Wuornos was born in 1956 in Michigan. From the beginning, her life was unstable. Her father was a convicted sex offender who later died by suicide in prison. Her mother abandoned her before she was even old enough to understand what that meant. She and her brother were raised by grandparents in a home that, by many accounts, was harsh and abusive. By the time Aileen was a young teenager, she had already endured physical violence and sexual abuse. She became pregnant at 14 after being assaulted. The baby was placed for adoption. Soon after, she was thrown out of her home. She began living in the woods, trading sex for food, money, and cigarettes. Survival hardened her. Trust disappeared. Anger took its place. Drifting through America, through her 20s and 30s, Wuornos drifted across the country. She was arrested multiple times for robbery, forgery, disorderly conduct. She worked as a sex worker along highways and truck stops. She learned how to read men quickly, who was dangerous, who was drunk, who had money. She also learned something else. Many men believed women like her didn't matter. By the late 1980s, she was living in Florida, surviving day by day. She carried a .22 caliber pistol. She later claimed it was for protection. The first killing. In November 1989, 51-year-old Richard Mallory disappeared. His body was found weeks later in a wooded area. He had been shot multiple times. At first, there was little connection to anything larger. Murders happen. Police investigate. Cases move slowly. But then another body was found. And another. Each victim had been shot. Each had picked up a woman hitchhiking or working the highways. Each time, their cars were later discovered abandoned. Florida authorities realized they were looking for a serial killer. They assumed it was a man. 7 men. Between late 1989 and late 1990, 7 men were killed. Richard Mallory, David Spears, Charles Carskadden, Peter Seams, Troy Burress, Charles Humphreys, Walter Antonio. Their bodies were found scattered across central Florida. Some were shot multiple times, in the chest, the back, sometimes at close range. Ballistics confirmed the same gun had been used. The pattern was clear, but the killer's identity was not. A story of self-defense. Wuornos would later claim that the first man, Richard Mallory, had violently assaulted her after picking her up. She said she shot him in self-defense. She claimed the other men attempted similar attacks. According to her, she was not hunting, she was surviving. But investigators found evidence that complicated her story. Some victims were shot repeatedly. In certain cases, personal belongings and cars were taken and pawned. Was she defending herself? Or had something shifted inside her? Some criminologists believe the first killing may indeed have involved violence, and that it unlocked something powerful in her. Fear mixed with rage. And rage, once unleashed, can be addictive. The arrest. Wuornos' downfall came through a relationship. She had formed a bond with a woman named Tyria Moore. When police began tracking pawned items belonging to victims, the trail led to Wuornos. Under pressure, Moore cooperated with authorities. In January 1991, Wuornos was arrested at a biker bar. When confronted, she eventually confessed. Her confessions were intense, emotional, and inconsistent. At times she cried. At times she spoke with chilling calm. She insisted it was self-defense, but she admitted to shooting the men. The media storm. America was stunned. A female serial killer was rare. A woman killing men repeatedly challenged stereotypes about violence. Headlines called her the highway killer, the damsel of death, America's first female serial killer. Her image, sunburned skin, wild eyes, unfiltered speech, became iconic. Some people saw a monster. Others saw a broken human being shaped by a lifetime of abuse. The trials. In 1992, Wuornos went to trial for the murder of Richard Mallory. The prosecution argued she lured men under the promise of sex, shot them, and robbed them. The defense argued Mallory had a history of violence against women and that Wuornos feared for her life. The jury deliberated for only a few hours. She was found guilty. She was sentenced to death. Over the next few years, she received 5 additional death sentences. A mind under pressure. While on death row, Wuornos' mental state appeared to deteriorate. She claimed prison officials were poisoning her food. She believed there was a conspiracy against her. She lashed out at lawyers and fired multiple defense attorneys. Psychiatrists debated her condition. Some believed she suffered from borderline personality disorder and antisocial traits. Others believed trauma had fractured her ability to trust reality itself. Then something unexpected happened. She asked to stop her appeals. She said she wanted the execution carried out. "I'm tired of fighting," she said. Some believed she was exhausted. Others believed she wanted control over at least one final decision in her life. The final hours. On October 9th, 2002, Aileen Wuornos was executed by lethal injection. She declined a special last meal. She asked for a cup of coffee. Her final words were strange, referencing returning someday, like Independence Day with Jesus. She was 46 years old, a case that still divides the world. More than 20 years later, her case remains debated. Some argue she was a cold, calculated predator who exploited sympathy. Others argue she was a severely traumatized woman who reacted violently in situations where she believed death was imminent. It is possible that both can be true. She may have been a victim, and she may have been a killer. 7 men died. Families grieved. And somewhere along the highways of Florida, the memory lingers of a woman walking alone, carrying a gun, shaped by a life that never gave her safety. Subscribe for more.